Hello and welcome, everyone. We're having a little bit of a new pop-up live stream tonight instead of our just the end of the month one because Philip over here noticed that a lot of new people in the community have been making videos sort of explaining how they came to the Neogenian system. And we thought, we've talked a lot of bits and pieces about our histories, but never really sat down and talked about our whole story on how we ended up where we are with you guys. So before we begin, I'm just going to announce to anybody new that this channel, the Neogenian Oculus, is dedicated to all things Neogenian. We do live streams at least once a month at the end of the month and like now in the middle of the month as well. And we also make videos and we moderate over on Morg's channel. So you may have met us already. If you are interested in anything to do with the Neogenian system, this is the place for it. We have a great community here. My name is
Also, if you
Susan.
guys, just to put in really quick, if you guys come to our member stream, we also get a lot more close knit and kind of interact with our community more there.
Yeah, we do a members stream at the end of the month after
Mhm.
our public stream. And if
We've
you,
also had guest speakers come on in our member streams and talk about their kind of journey to the Neogenian.
yeah, and in fact, I wanted to put a kind of a plug out there for anybody who is interested in coming on to the member stream. Everybody's very friendly. Please let us know. And, just contact me or Philip or write it out on our community board.
Mhm.
Um,
And also, you can
so,
find us on Facebook, the Neogenian Oculus, and you
yes,
can
and you
message
can,
us there.
yeah, you can message us through there. So, hello, everybody. I could see all sorts of people coming in, and it's really great to see everybody tonight because this was kind of spur of the moment. What we're going to do, and also welcome to anybody new. I see a new name in here, and it's like Echo Eight, who says, "What is this?" We are doing a live stream on how we came to the Neogenian system. If you're not familiar with that, what that is, you can find lots of information on Morg Official's channel and also on our channel, but also on just the Neogenian channel. Has really good information on the just the basics, and also Morg's book series, which you can find listed in our last live stream. I don't think I put the books in the description of this one, but in our last live stream, there are links to all of the books on the Neogenian system. There's five of them. So
Yeah, and
we,
welcome to anybody that's new.
yeah. And anyway, I think we should just get going because
Okay.
there's a lot to talk about. And I
Yeah,
think,
I thought this would be an interesting one because I always think it's interesting seeing people within our community talk about their stories. And I
yeah,
think that you and I have talked about ours here and there because people who come to our live streams frequently know us and they probably know parts of our lives. But I
yeah,
don't think we've ever fully given like the full timeline of what led us up to the Neogenian.
yeah. Everybody's heard bits and pieces. So um, I'm always fascinated in what led people to. Yeah, Mark is one of our moderators who just said, "I'm new. What is this about?" Yeah, yeah. Like uh, you'll have to catch up, Mark. Mark's been on and given your story, and so has Lee. I was going to ask some other people who I see out there now if they're interested in coming on. Is Elise around yet? That's another one of our moderators. I have not seen if she's in here yet, but it's great to have Mark here. So one of the things that Philip and I talk about a lot is the different sort of general backgrounds that people can have, and
Mhm.
two of the most common are a religious background, and the other is basically the opposite, which is either atheist or very sort of a very scientific background. And what's interesting is that we're one of each of those. So
Mhm.
we enjoy kind of comparing what we've been through. And
Which isn't that interesting because we're so similar.
We are
in a lot
really
of ways.
similar. Yes, we are really similar, we have found out. And yet we come from backgrounds. Well, I'm very interested in psychology. So it's fascinating to me how, what sort of steps people go through. And I'm also always thinking what similarities led people to end up where we are now, because
Hmm.
you can come from an incredibly, we'll look at Morg coming from an incredibly um, conservative Christian family and founded the system. You don't have to have this very sort of progressive background to end up here, but I think there are several qualities that are necessary. One of the most important is the ability to take in new information.
Yeah.
And and even if it's uncomfortable, even if it really stresses you in terms of challenging your beliefs and making you uncomfortable, the ability to stick with that and to push through it is necessary.
And I
So,
think what you just talked about highlighted one main thing that you and I have in common is a thirst for knowledge. Whereas your
yeah,
thirst for knowledge comes from a scientific perspective, mine came from that knowledge is forbidden to you. And that
yeah,
made me want it more.
yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. I'll talk more about that when we get to me, but I want to start with
Yeah.
you. Um, and so, why don't you talk about what kind of religious background you have? Because
Yeah.
it's not quite the really ultra conservative that a lot of people
Yeah.
have to, go through.
Yeah, I would say I'm really lucky because my religious upbringing wasn't so strict that I was necessarily constricted or oppressed to the degree that some people are. So I was raised Methodist, which is kind of seen as kind of the tame end of Christianity. So I didn't go to church every Sunday. I wasn't, shamed for not going to church or anything. We mostly went to the big holiday church events, but some of my family goes every Sunday. So it is still very much a thing in my family. And so I was raised in that environment and I kind of started veering away from that around the age of 12, 13. And I think I finally was done with Christianity by like 14, because even after you try to separate yourself away from it, you're still having questions and doubts like, is this what I'm doing? And it wasn't
Yeah.
fully like out of me, I would say, until I was about 14.
So, what was the thing that made you really start to pull away? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that just follow along, but you
Yeah,
didn't.
I think there was a lot of things. I finally started to really know that that wasn't for me when I started going through a process called confirmation, which is where you have an elder from the church and they're kind of like your sponsor and you meet up at once a week to have Bible homework and they're kind of supposed to guide you into becoming a good Christian, a member of the church. And so I was doing this with my sponsor, and every week I was slowly reading less and less of the Bible. I wasn't into it. And I noticed that my sponsor started doing less and less work because
Mm,
they saw I wasn't into it. So part of that made me feel bad because I kind of felt like I was wasting his time. But there was just so many things over the years that I think it was a slow burn until I finally realized this is not for me. So I was always questioning other denominations and other religions. Like you have Christianity that has so many different denominations, and that said to me, if you have different interpretations of the word of God, then how can the word of God be infallible if you can just interpret it based on your personal viewpoint? So to me, that said there's flaws in this because it can be swayed based on each person. It's not infallible, the word of God. And then when I found out that there was other books that weren't even included in the Bible,
hmm
then I started having all of these doubts and questions and things. But one of the main things with Christianity is being satisfied with not understanding existence. So, me and you, we both have that thirst for knowledge. Even when I was religious, I still wanted to know how things worked, if that
hmm
makes sense.
Yeah. How long is this confirmation process and how long has that taken? Is that every Christian denomination? Is that something that everybody goes through? I know
I'm
Catholic is
not
different, but I
Yeah,
don't know
I'm
about
not
Protestant.
entirely sure. I don't know how many denominations or which specific ones do confirmation. I want to say like it was a couple months, because you would
Oh,
do it,
not that
you would do
long.
it. Yeah. So it wasn't like a year-long thing or anything like that, but
Yeah.
that was kind of the end of the line.
Yeah.
After I finished, sorry.
Morg says I didn't have confirmation, and Ryan said I made a Catholic one. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Catholics are have a whole different system. Like I
Yeah.
knew that.
And
Um,
confirmation also isn't required. I think that's more of people wanting to show their dedication to the church. So people could go to
uh,
your church and not be confirmed as a member. They just go every week or whatever. But when you're going through the process of confirmation, that's like, I am wholly devoting myself to this establishment for this
yeah,
religion, like trying
yeah,
to show that you're a devout member.
yeah.
But there was a lot of other stuff that really grossed me out. Like a lot of people talk about the blood of Jesus with the communion. And
Mhm.
as a kid, that grossed me out. And thinking about let the blood of Christ wash over you, wash away your sins and stuff. And I was thinking, you're telling me that I can't look at all this stuff that you deem as evil or dark or whatever. And then you're telling me that we have the blood of Christ and eat the flesh of Christ and all of those really kind of dark things. So when you're a kid, I know
Yeah,
you and I talked about there's so much stuff in kids literature and kids movies and stuff that would be called evil. Like I use the example of Snow White when the evil witch kind of runs down into the basement and she's looking at all her spell books and stuff. They don't care
yeah,
about that, but when you're a child, that presents a bit of curiosity. Like, what is this stuff? What is the occult? What is all those cool books that she has that you're
yeah,
told, oh, witchcraft is evil, but
yeah,
it's there. I'm being entertained by it.
yeah. I have so many, I have so many things that I want to bring up about how I viewed all of that, but coming from a very
Yeah.
different background. Because
And
I
music
was,
was the same.
oh,
Were your parents in, I mean, I know you were the kind of scientific background, but did you have any kind of restriction on music?
we, my sister and I were raised by parents who had gone to church with their parents. My father's family was this, British, attitude where you went to church on Sundays and then you had the Sunday meals. Mom would cook and everything. And my mother's family, they liked the church for social reasons, I think,
Hmm.
because it was like a community. Um, but both of my parents stopped going as soon as they didn't have to anymore, and they never took us, my sister and I, never.
Yeah.
We weren't. I told you the other day that my father's mother was asked when we were born, when is the baptism? And both my parents said we're not doing it. And they never took us to a church, never set foot in
And
any
see,
church, never belonged to one.
my situation was the opposite because I was baptized twice.
Were you?
Which is another contradiction of being clean from your sins because when I was born I was baptized, and then when I was kind of close to the end of my stint in religion, around like maybe 11, 12, I was baptized again.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember the explanation for that, but I kind of always had that in the back of my head that this is weird, that they would feel the need to do it again, which
Is
I
that
guess
the
you can do
born
it as
again thing, kind of
I
being
don't think
baptized
so.
again?
I think
Okay.
maybe it was when you're old enough to actually ask for Christ into your life rather than it
Oh, I
being done
see.
to you as
When
like an
you're
infant. I
yes.
think they want you to want it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
it's interesting because since we were nothing, like you asked about music, my parents did their own thing and allowed us to do our own thing. We
yeah,
we weren't policed with really maybe what we watched on TV, but we didn't even have a TV until I was I don't know 10 or something.
yeah.
Um, so that was not a big thing, but we could listen to whatever we wanted to. They never stopped us from that or
I
what we
think
wanted to wear.
I think the reason I asked about music was because for me, music was the spark that kind of exploded my exit from the church.
Yeah,
So I know I've told you this story, but the first time that I ever heard Marilyn Manson, I was being picked up from the pool by my older sister. She's like 10 years older than me, so she had had more life experience. She had run away and went to Ozfest and was kind of the trouble child, I guess. So she picked me up from the pool, and I remember this really cool song playing in her car. And I looked down at the CD, and it was the Golden Age of Grotesque album from 2003. And I thought that the art on the cover was so cool. It's kind of like a blurred picture of his face with the paint. And that paired with the song, I was just amazed because I had never heard music like that. And it felt so creative and different and kind of dark. And I was drawn to it. And I think that is the electric kind of spark that started me on
Yeah.
wanting to explore more music. So I had always had like Ozzy in my life because my dad listens to Ozzy and he's kind of a
Oh,
more
he
tame.
does.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's kind of more tame. So it was the darker stuff that I was really kind of more interested in. And after I left Christianity, I've said this in a few of our streams, I went towards Satanism. So I don't remember ever telling people I identify as a Satanist, but I was very interested in satanic philosophy, to be specific, non-theistic, kind
right.
of Levian Satanism. So
Yeah.
with non-theistic, you aren't worshiping a deity, you don't believe in an actual entity called Satan. But I really liked their philosophy of self-expression and individualism. There was no shunning of sexual promiscuity. All of those things were really interesting to me. But also, as I kind of went down that path, that system still wasn't good enough for me. So it was very nihilistic. It seems like a lot of non-theistic Satanists they tend to be atheists. They don't really believe in a bigger picture of the universe. And also, it can be a little selfish, just focusing on the self and not others. So I continued to look at other systems, but I still really appreciate the symbology and some of the archetypal imagery of
Mm,
Satanism.
yeah.
So I think that's something else that we'll talk about a little bit later in the stream is still appreciating other systems and symbols while
Yeah.
still focused on your journey.
Yeah. And how that fits very well into the
Yeah.
Neogenian system. Hi, Elise.
Because you're
Elise
kind of
made it in
similar,
here.
even though you come from the scientific background, but you've always been
Yeah.
interested in paganism, right?
Well, yeah. What happened with me was that I had nothing uh, pushing me in any direction. So
Hmm.
at anything that I was interested in, I could look into and I could ask about. And my parents would always answer me. They would, I think, especially my dad, would just want me to think about it. Like, dad was really big on analyzing and coming up with, thinking critically about something and then coming
Yeah.
to a conclusion that made sense. So I don't remember this ever happening, but if I had said, "Oh, I believe in God, the Christian God," I'm sure he would have said, "Well, what makes you think it's true?" He would have done the whole Socratic method thing with me. But my parents allowed me to go to all different churches with my friends. Like they never stopped me and they never said, "Oh, well, we don't do that." So I went to
Yeah.
Presbyterian church. I had, on Palm Sunday and got to draw pictures, and get the little palm or the whatever, and I learned some stuff about the Bible there, I guess. And I went to another friend was Mormon, and I went to a study group with them, and that
Hmm.
was really weird because I remember them asking me, what do you? They were trying to train the kids, help them, educate them on how to
Yeah.
handle life situations. So she said, "Okay, everybody, what do you do if you're at a friend's house or you're at a party and someone offers you a Coke to drink? What do you do?" And I just was like, absolutely had no idea what to say because why couldn't you have the Coke? I don't,
Yeah.
it never even occurred to me to just try to say, "Oh, no, thank you," or something. So that was weird. But I went to Catholic church and that was weird because I felt very out of it when they all went up for communion and I couldn't. It was like, "You have to stay here, Susan." And I do remember in sixth grade wanting to belong to a religion because you're at that age where you want to do what everybody else is doing. So it wouldn't
Yeah.
have
It's kind of
mattered
like
to me.
social
Yes,
acceptance.
yes, everybody had a thing, and yeah, then no, they didn't. I was young, Morg. It's like, no, they're not allowed to drink caffeine, so they can't have coffee. Would have been the same thing if it was coffee. But I wanted something like if my parents had just picked a church and said, now we belong
Mhm.
to this one, I don't think I would have wanted to go. I wouldn't have been happy about that. But I would have
Yeah.
been able to say, well, we're this, but I didn't have that. And
I love that you had the option to explore.
everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I could read anything I wanted. I could go to anything I was invited to go to. I went to Unitarian thing. I explored a lot of stuff. But uh, ultimately, looking back on my life and experiencing and hearing what people who I know have been through, that's when
Yeah.
I said, wow, I lucked out. I'm so grateful.
I was going to ask if
I
you
will never
felt
not.
lucky with your upbringing.
Now, yes. At the
Yeah.
time, I really was in that I want to fit in stage. And
Hmm.
we did not fit in. I mean, I never fit in because my family situation was weird. My mother had a PhD like my father, and they both worked. And we were the weirdos on the street.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely,
I
did not fit
also
in.
would consider myself lucky. So I want to emphasize that even though I was raised religious in Christianity, I consider myself lucky because there's so many worse denominations or
Oh,
religious groups out there that are
yeah,
difficult to exit, that your family is so much more ingrained in that it's difficult to step away from that without also having to step away from them.
yeah,
So my trauma from religion comes from the consequences of religion as an institution. It's
hmm
a consequence of faith. It's not necessarily a consequence of my family.
yeah,
So, like, I can look at it that that's what they believe and that's okay. That's what they're going to do. And now they give me the respect that that's what I don't believe. So,
yeah. You're
I consider myself very lucky with that. And
fortunate.
also, I wasn't in a super oppressive denomination or anything.
Yeah, I think
So,
Methodist isn't so bad. I mean, one of the
yeah.
things, and I've told you this before, one of the things I did in my search, because you said earlier that I came from a scientific background of wanting
Mhm.
knowledge, but that's not, I don't think that's what did it. I think it was something very internal to me. To me, searching for knowledge the way my parents did, because neither one of them ever looked for spiritual answers. They could not care less.
Yeah.
Honestly, just never thought philosophically. Well, I don't know about my dad has since passed, but um, I think that he was just a very staunch agnostic. He would say agnostic, but probably more atheist. Never
Mhm.
questioned, just had other things to do. And my mother is such a materialist. With this, she'll be very interested to watch a documentary on Buddhism or some sort of spiritual thing, but she never connects it to gee, maybe I should think about reality and what it is. She just is so much a materialist and enjoying life here and what there is to do. So I think I came into this life with this need to search for truth that I
Yeah.
didn't even realize that that's what it was. I wanted, yeah, Angela, I can understand that. Um,
I think I can also relate to that of wanting to find the ultimate truth because
yeah,
after I left Christianity, like everything that I believed was in question and I had thrown away from me. So I was left wanting. And so, even though I went towards Satanism kind of at first as an act of rebellion, but also I do enjoy the things that I learned from Satanism, but that wasn't the end goal for me.
yeah,
So I still was wanting to understand like the way the universe worked and all of the deeper questions that you don't get that aren't even touched on in religions. And so I kind of went through a troublesome phase where I did a lot of things that I wasn't supposed to, but I also spent some time experimenting with psychedelics. And I've mentioned that on our channel many
yeah,
times before,
sure.
which don't do anything illegal or dangerous to you. I did it in a very safe setting with safe people. And that path of my life kind of led me to new questions. So, in the psychedelic community, when you're meeting with these people and having interactions with like minded people, you hear a lot of people talking about the energy of the universe. and frequency and vibrations, and all of those things sounded like a step in the right direction, but they weren't clear enough answers for me. I mean, you
Hmm.
can just say that things are energy or I have good vibrations or whatever.
Or
And then
everything
you
is
also
love.
get, yeah, you also get a subset of that of people that call the universe love, as a
Hmm.
consequence of taking the psychedelics. And, you can intuitively feel that love, but that's not what reality is. And so that kind of led me into philosophy and searching different forms of philosophy. And I haven't done the deep search that many of you guys have. I know Morgan, you and Mark, you're very well read on philosophy. I kind of touched my toes in all of the little pools.
Yeah,
And
I'm not. Morgan Mark for sure.
yeah,
There's so much
and
more that I would like to do.
for anybody who doesn't know, Susan and Jan are actually the first two in this community that I came across. So at the time I was on Instagram, I'm not anymore, but I was following some philosophy pages and things like that. And I had read Morg's first book that they put out, and I saw some posts with some symbols and things, and Susan and Jan were both in the comments, and that's how we became friends. So that's kind of what led me towards the Neogenian.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was kind of a longer search, which I didn't even really know I was on.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was looking for, but when I would encounter things, I would like some stuff. You know how you talked earlier about liking certain things about Satanism, and then
Hmm.
you said it to me about paganism. I always found that very attractive. I the whole witchy vibe I really like, and I know people in the pagan community. Back when I was living in Canada, I was friends with the local high priestess of the coven, Wiccan coven, and I even was taking a Wiccan course through her. I found it, very interesting. I have
What was
no
that like?
it was she wrote a book on it, and I actually have the book. It's interesting. I like it, but I couldn't find the explanation of reality, and that's always been the thing missing. I've explored. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I think I explored um, Kabbalah. I have some early Kabbalah books that I looked into and then said, "Oh, this is way over my head,"
Yeah,
and I sort of put them
understandable.
aside. I had the Blavatsky book, and I started reading it. And again, I was like, I don't know. I could not understand anything in that until I took Hinduism many years later and started to become familiar with enough with some of the terminology in there that I could go back and say, oh, okay, this makes more sense now. But I was interested in different religions. I took uh, East, like Introduction to Eastern Religions when I was in college, where I got a taste of a whole bunch of them. And then I took a semester on Buddhism and a semester on Hinduism. I did not take the semester on Islam, and I kind of wish I had because I wish I had had
Yeah.
that. Christianity, I really had such a weird understanding of because it's very strange. And when I
Hmm.
discovered that it really is strange. It wasn't my lack of being able to figure it out. It really is weird, in that it's like you're it's got the cannibalism in it,
Yeah.
which
You
I can't.
discovered the weirdness from the sidelines.
I did, and I remember just trying to get straight Catholic and Protestant, and then all these different Protestant denominations. And one of the things I usually will ask people and then immediately forget is what's the difference between Methodist and Lutheranism or Presbyterian or
Mhm. And sometimes the differences are so small, so slight,
yes,
that it's
yes,
like, what's the point of having these different denominations?
because they can't agree. That's
Hmm.
the thing. And when you have so many that can't agree, something's not right there.
Yeah.
And then
And also,
everybody has different
I was just going to say,
interpretations.
when you're religious or when you're a Christian, you're given the expectation of what a good Christian should be like,
Yeah.
and trying to be a good Christian for God and for your church and stuff. But then you see religious people
Yeah.
acting very hateful and very awful.
Yes.
You see that the most right now all over in the world, and it's just
Yeah.
it's very off-putting.
Yeah. And so there's that. And then there's also, excuse me, there's also all of the give me money pastors,
Yeah, the mega church
which
stuff.
mega church stuff, which uh, really confuses a person trying to figure this out when I knew that there was the passages in the Bible that said being wealthy isn't going to get you anywhere. So
Yeah, I
I
saw an interview with one of those mega church pastors. I guess it was Joyce Meyer. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of her, but you can see her on this interview. The interviewer is saying, "You tell people, even if you are having a hard time in life, to send in your last dollar, and God will reward you for
yes,
it and will give you blessings." And the interviewer said, "Don't you think that's irresponsible because people will send in their grocery money, their gas
yeah,
money?" And she goes, "I fully stand by it. And I fully believe
and it's
that God
sending
will
money to
to
her.
her.
Yes, it's
Yes.
not send money to the needy children in Africa or the needy
Yeah.
children in, excuse me.
And see, that's another thing that grosses me out is because for churches to be tax exempt, one of the requirements for tax exemption for that law to be passed was they had to present or they had to provide a service to society or to their communities. And that's why awful religions like Scientology got tax exempt, which there was a lot of
Yeah,
strong arming behind the scenes, but they don't provide services to the public. They just have
no.
a front. And I can't say that there's not good people and churches out there that do things for their community. I can't say that because there
Oh,
absolutely are.
absolutely they do. Yeah.
But it's
But
it's just really gross at all the awful stuff that religious people spread.
yeah, that made no sense to me. And I'm sorry, but I did mute myself when I was coughing. You can hear me, but I just need to cough again. You guys, hang on one
Yeah,
second.
you're fine. And another thing I was going to say also is it's very hard to summarize the long path that it has taken us to get to now. So even though when I was talking about my journey or Susan's talking about her journey, we're saying we did this and this and this and this, but it's been a long time since leaving religion and
Yeah,
finding this material. And I'm sure for you too, there's so many steps along the way that you have to
I
take
I
before you
can't
get to the
even
end point.
I can't even remember because I'm old. I can't even remember all of the things that I read and studied. I do remember that I belonged to a Edgar Casey study group at one point because I had a friend who was sort of, well, pretty new agey.
Hmm.
Sorry, you guys. And I went to these weekly meetings. They were Methodist. The two people
Mm.
that kind of ran it, very nice people. I never really brought in, never preached, nothing. Knew that I didn't go to church, that, that wasn't my background. Not a problem. We just sort of talk. I don't even know that much about Edgar Casey. Maybe sometime we can look into him and do a stream on him, but
Okay.
um, if there's some interest, probably down the road. But I think he had some interesting things, and some things were very iffy. But it was fun to talk about the exercises that made you think, and then you meditated and had food together. So not a bad thing to do, but it was one of the steps that I went on, that I sort of went on in my journey. But always pushing me and keeping me from like throwing myself fully into anything, including like a paganism thing, which I would have had no problem with the look, the very witchy look, all of that.
They have very cool style.
They do. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds, like gothy ones and like hippie ones and, just
Yeah.
very new agey ones. And I like all of that, but I couldn't throw myself into it because I didn't see the answers there. And it felt fake. I've always felt like it would be performative. It would just
Yeah.
be, oh, okay, I'm doing this, but I really don't understand what this is doing and why. And like, how does this explain reality? You can't just tell me, oh, well, there's forces and they're doing these things. without
Mhm.
explaining to me how it works. And that was always lacking. And the
And
other
that
day,
was,
I was
I was
just
going to say that was kind of the same for me with the forces and the stories, because when you're religious, your whole ideology is nothing but mythos. It's all stories.
exactly, it's all the stories, and you're expected to take it on faith. That's what faith is.
Hmm.
This is true because we believe that it's true. And I just could not go for that. So, and that's probably because of my dad. Um, so, what the way I envisioned it, and I told you this the other day, is all of the things that the narrative part of any system, uh, the story part of it are, and any sort of visuals that go with it, like the whole vibes, the witchy
Yeah.
vibe or the Satanism vibe. Those are like clothing to me, and it can be
Hmm.
very elaborate, it can be beautiful, it can be very attractive, but if it's not hanging on a solid like coat hanger, excuse me, like a clothes rack that has the foundation that is holding it up, it's there's nothing there that's going to hold me. I will really like that outfit, but I can't wear it in and pretend to believe something when I don't really, when it doesn't have the explanation of reality behind it, which is what I wanted. And when finally we ended up here with this material, that's that's when I said, now we have this, and you can then put everything else on top of it. It's not, what's so great about the Neogenian system is that you're not locked into any particular look, any particular kind of way you want to exist.
Hmm.
It's all completely open once you. The only thing is that you respect, and because you understand how reality operates, you respect everybody else on their journey because we're all doing this together.
And I think that's why finding Morg's first book was so important for me, because it was all about breaking away from those previous systems of thought and creating that foundation of reason, which, as we know, is the most important thing ever. It's the
Yeah,
hanger that we
that's
put the
that's
metaphorical
that's the
clothes
clothes
on.
rack. Yeah,
So even though I appreciated the system of Satanism and the satanic philosophies that I was looking into and kind of following, even though I didn't uh, identify as a Satanist, um, all of those things can be important to you, but you still have to put them secondary to the mathematical certainty of reason. And so, like the images of the pentagram and the Baphomet and Satan being the adversary, I loved the idea of adversary to what I had left. I was against religion and everything that it stood for. I still am, but I
yeah,
hate the system, not the people. It's just important to emphasize that.
yes, definitely.
So you can still love these other systems and symbols and things, but you have to put them second to reason. So
Yeah,
I had the same thing that you did with your paganism search, because with Satanism and the psychedelic community, all of those things helped me in my progress, but they didn't provide the answers of existence. Susan and I say in our streams all the time that we want to know how things work. We want to know the nitty gritty at the bottom of stuff of how it functions. And so the Neogenian system has been probably the best thing in my life. And also,
yeah,
I have got to meet you and all of our great community members. And
yeah,
speaking of which, I see we've had quite a few new people in the chat.
yeah.
Sorry, we've
There's
just been kind of
yeah,
talking and haven't acknowledged you guys for a little bit. But I
yeah,
had an idea.
yeah,
Let's see if we can put a poll in the chat and we can ask people if they came from a background of either religion, science, or other slash none.
yeah. Okay, let me do that. And um, yeah, I see there's a lot of people talking, and there's some new people. So let's
Give me a poll, Day in Darklight says. I hope I
yeah.
pronounced that right.
Okay. Um, I
Because I'm
have
curious.
okay.
I'm curious. I know a lot of you guys have said that You have come from religion, a religious background, and I'm just kind of curious to see what all of you guys say.
All right, I'm figuring out, I don't do polls that often. So, okay, so I'm just going to put, what's your background?
Yeah.
What's your background? Okay, now what I need to do is, so I'm going to put down options. Oh, it's yes or no.
Now there should
Here.
be a way to change the answers or
Oh,
add an
yes, there we
answer.
go. Religion. And then here, I'm going to put, I'm going to put atheist, which is, that can be like a science,
Yeah, that's true.
a, atheist, and then add an option. I'm going to put How about mixed? Yeah,
Sure.
mixed, meaning a little of each. Okay. If you're more religious, do that. Pick religion. Okay. And then is anybody, any other options I need? I'm going to put another one here, add option. I'm going to put extreme religion. Okay. Like,
Oh, okay.
to differentiate, um, to differentiate between here. I think I started it. So if you were had to go to church and you're had to read the Bible every night and really it was a big deal, pick that one. If you could go just on Christmas and Easter, or you called yourself Christian but you didn't really do much,
Mhm.
like a lot of people I knew would probably just be, we're religious but not super extreme. Um, oh, we have 16 votes. Woo, okay,
Did
16
you
votes
ever
already.
go to any kind of camps or anything as a kid? When I was a kid, I got sent, I mean, I wasn't sent against my will, but I was sent to religious camps that on the outset look like fun summer camps. And then on the inset are more of, now I would call them religious reaffirming camps because you do the Bible readings and all of that stuff. And
Ew.
I discovered that that was not fun for me, especially when you're there for a week or two and can't leave. You know, you get dropped off, which again, it wasn't like anything super traumatizing, but
Yeah.
uh, it was kind of towards the end of my brief time with Christianity. And looking back now, I'm thinking, how did I not beg to call my parents to come pick me up? You know?
Oh, I would have been so miserable with that.
Yeah.
I did Girl Scout camping for like the weekend a couple of times. I would not have liked, I would have not liked any
Yeah.
kind of
I
religious.
think the only thing that kept me sane was like the non-religious activities.
Oh, yeah.
So we did other fun things, but one of the last times that I went, not enough kids signed up, so it was just me and one other kid, and they
No.
didn't send us home or anything, so it was just a camp for us, and we just basically were there with the counselors, and they didn't want to do it. They basically were like, "Well, there's only two of you, so we'll do some activities." And it was
Was it
so boring.
was it a sleepaway camp or day camp?
Yeah. It was like you got sent there for like a
Oh,
week.
that's right. It had to be
Yeah.
sleepaway because you wouldn't have gone back the next day if
Right.
it was
Right.
during the day. Oh wow. All right,
Yeah.
I think did everybody vote? Because I'm gonna yeah, I would have hated that Tuesdays. Okay. I want to spend the last 15 minutes looking at comments and then talking with people because
Yeah, for
there's been
sure.
so much conversations and we've just been ignoring all of it. So I'm gonna close this poll. How do I do that? How do I close the poll?
Is there like the three dot
Can I
thing that
can
you
I
can
can I
close
hit
it?
I'm gonna hit close.
Okay. And then it should give us the
End
percentages.
poll. End poll. Okay. So now how do I where's the poll? Oh, there it is. So we had nobody who was like me. Wow, interesting.
Out of
Hang on.
25 votes.
Yeah, so we had 40 and 40 and 20.
So if you
Uh
combine religion with extreme religion, 60% of those polled came from religious backgrounds.
wow. And then even and the other 40 had some religion in there because they were mixed.
Yeah.
So Wow, nobody was like, see, I thought I was like, you know, sort of the you. No, I wasn't very. Yeah, we were weird. We were the weirdos. That goes to prove it. Um, okay, what has everybody been saying in here? You got it. Oh, my message for minimizing polls. Are you new? Is it Dane or Dean? Am I pronouncing that right? And uh, and did have we you know Morg from Morg's channel? Don't be
Yeah, and
sorry.
if you guys are
He's like,
interested, we can always do more discussions on this kind of stuff. Just leave us some comments, and also we
yeah,
appreciate everybody who likes and shares the video.
yeah. Thank you. Oh, you were raised as a pagan, claimed spiritual for a long time. Now claim non-Abrahamic true monotheist. Oh, that's interesting. Um, And if and have you heard from, have you heard about the Neogenian about, oh, pronounced Dane, thank you. And Ryan was an altar boy for 7 years. Does everybody in the chat, is everybody familiar enough with the Neogenian system to know that what we mean when we say that there is no external creator, that that's what we are? And that's why we say we are God, but it's not God in like the Christian God. We are not that. Um, Angela, you were in the choir.
Hmm.
Wow.
Oh, I know, Ryan,
Nicely.
how awful being an altar boy is wearing those scratchy robes.
Nice and welcome, Dane. Spectral was also in the choir. I
I
didn't
don't think
mind.
I ever did choir stuff, but I did altar boy stuff, like
You
having to
did.
light the
Wow.
candles.
What's Awana? What is that, Zeus?
That sounds familiar to me. Um, is that like it's like a children's thing, isn't it?
I don't know what that
Yeah, I
is.
think I want to say it's like yeah, kind of like Christian Boy and Girl Scouts. That's a better way of putting it than I
Oh,
would
is that
have.
what that is?
Yeah. I remember I never signed up for it, but I knew other kids that did, and you would go and do activities, and I think that's more like a day camp thing, not like not the week long camp stuff.
Andy was also an altar person. Wow, a lot of people doing that. That's a big thing, huh?
Joanna says altar boys, haha, nice, very well behaved bunch, right? Not at all.
And Ren
In the
was in the
back room,
choir
we
as
were
well.
whacking each other with those bell things that you extinguish the candle with,
That's funny. That's funny.
sword fighting with them.
Oh, Zeus, their weekly meetings and camp too?
Hmm.
Macro. Oh, wow, you went to Catholic school. I know some people that went to Catholic school who, in fact, my sister's husband and their family. Um, those kids had to go to Catholic school when they were younger, and they would tell stories about the nuns and how mean
Yeah.
they were. That always shocked me to find out that nuns were mean.
I always thought it was weird, even though I was raised religious, I would look at other religions and or denominations and think that they were strange too, because I had some friends, I think they were Catholic and they had mass on Wednesday nights at the movie theater or something like that. And I was like, what are you doing? I wanted to hang out after school or something, and they said, we can't, we have mass on a Wednesday.
On
And
a
I just thought that
Wednesday.
was so
So
strange.
I thought it was only Sundays, and then I found out it's not.
Yeah.
Good night, Andy. Thank you for coming. Drive safely. Um,
You got badges and pins for learning Bible topics and memorizing verses? Oh man.
oh, somebody, and where did Macro say the nuns were mean? I think because they get abused. Oh, really? Wow.
Dane says, do you guys ever bring people on to talk about theology? I'm not shy. I think the only person that we've ever had talk about some theological stuff is Laura, who has a very religious background and has shared kind of her story in our member stream. So yeah, we're open to having more people come on later on.
Oh, definitely. Oh, we have people on. If you've been in the Neogenian system around, if you've been around for, what is our time? Is it 3 or 6 months? I can't
I thought
remember.
it was 6.
It's 6 months. Yep. If you've
Yeah.
been around for 6 months, um, and yeah, we have people who come on one and a half
1.5
years. That's
years.
great. Okay, wait, what was traumatic? The worst part of me was doing the Way of the Cross. What's that? It's basically a 14-stage story. Oh, you know, yes, that's very traumatic, Ryan. The I don't understand how there's so much really scary, awful stuff that, I mean, when I came across it, not having it forced on me or anything, just anything that I came across with Christianity, there's a lot of really, like, I remember thinking this is very strange. Luckily, this isn't something that I'm being told I have to believe. I could walk away from it. But I remember thinking, wow, it's kind of was a relief to me that I wasn't involved in that. I only liked it from the sort of the social aspect I felt I needed to belong with. Oh, Mark says there was one atheist family in your neighborhood growing up. Being atheist and dropped. Oh, gods and other spicy language left and right. They were terrified. That's so funny. Um, that's awesome, Dane. Uh, Unitarian. Yes, Macro. I went to the Unitarian church with one of my friends for the Christmas Eve midnight mass, which was fun. It was fun being out at
Mhm.
midnight. We were like teenagers. We were like high school, end of high school, because we could drive ourselves there. And you hold the candle. But I've since found out that Unitarian, according to real Christians, Unitarian doesn't count. When I found out that there are Christians, the ones who are believe that they're the real Christians, and then there's all these
Right.
others that they don't believe are actually Christian. That blew my mind because the way I assumed is they were like, oh well, there's all different kinds of Christians, but we're better or we're right, and
Yeah. My
they're
family
not.
was kind of like that. They were very judgmental of other systems of Christianity. So, like the holding snakes and talking in tongues and all of that stuff,
Oh,
my family was
creepy,
very weirded out by.
very
One
weird.
of my family members went to a different church with some friends one time, and they did this strange thing where the pastor would like touch you with the Bible and people would faint or fall down
I hate
and
that.
would like cover you with a sheet for a while, and it was like your rebirth or something. I'm still confused by it. I was told it was very strange.
There's a lot of, I think some of it is obviously fake. And then I think and Morg would know more about this. Actually, Morg's Christians all hate each other. Yeah, but I'm sure a lot of it is fake. These are a lot of the money pastors,
Hmm.
and they always have the people up on stage with them. They're like
Intensely
support.
performative.
Yes, and they
Yeah.
have the ones that go around. It's to shore up and support the main
Yeah.
guy, and they so it's either fake, or I think there's a lot of this mass hypnosis thing.
That could also be.
The thing I hate, one of the things that I hate the most, it's really grotesque that people do this, is to do the fake healing things. I'm not talking
Hmm.
about those psychic surgeons. That's not. I'm talking about where they're like, get up out of your wheelchair, you're healed.
Yeah.
And then it's so gross that,
Isn't that like miracle workers or something
yeah, but
along
it's
those
it's
lines?
really gross because it preys on people who really
Mhm.
believe it. And the people who get up and walk, they can walk. They
I can't remember what the quote is exactly, but if I can paraphrase, there's a quote that I've seen that says, "The reason you don't see faith healers in hospitals is the same reason you don't see psychics winning the lottery every week."
It's exactly right. And I mean, when I heard the story about, this was ages ago, someone who went to one of these things, and it was an elderly person, and they said, "Oh, here, we'll put you right up front." and they put him in a wheelchair or her in a wheelchair. Where
Hmm.
they wheel you up front, you'll get a really good seat. And then along comes the minister, the pastor or whatever, and he's like, "Get up and walk." And the person's like thinking, "I of course I can walk. I walked in
Yeah.
here." And so they stand and walk a little bit, and everybody thinks it's a miracle. And it's
And
awful for the people who really can't walk.
Laura responded to that thing I said earlier and said, Philip, that's called being slain in the spirit because supposedly the Holy Spirit takes you over at that moment when you're doing the falling thing, when they touch you. I didn't know that's
Yeah.
what it was called, but all of that is high strangeness to me.
And the snake thing, very strange. I mean, there's a lot of
And
very
people
strange
have
things we
died
could.
doing that.
I know that, and it's yeah, yeah, it is all fake, Angela, and it's really. I find that kind of thing because if it was just sort of entertainment purposes, then fine, go for it. You know, if that's the way you want to be entertained. But when you're taking money from people and you're telling them that they need to do it, they should give their last dollar, or
Yeah.
you're giving them this hope that they can be cured if they come and give their money. And I just, it's so disgusting. It's so despicable. And then they just, yeah, then they just go backstage. They're
Yeah.
just con artists,
And I
really.
think that's why I'm so happy to have found the information in the Neogenian system because when you're exploring and trying to find a system that actually breaks down the truths of reality, the more and more you research, you will discover that mathematics and logic and reason are superior to faith and science.
Yeah,
Not all science, because I mean, we have technical
yeah,
applications that are great and stuff, but when you have that mathematical certainty, and reason underpinning everything, your system is superior. And it's important to always question what you're believing and what you're following. Even the Neogenian system encourages questioning itself. But
absolutely.
that has also led us to discovering like-minded others and building community like what we have here at the Neogenian Oculus, what we have in our other Neogenian streams and content creators, and also with Morg's channel. A lot of us met through Morg's work, and I know I'm very thankful for that and glad to have you guys with us.
Yeah. And remember that you don't have to, study or understand the material, which is in the all contained in Morg's second book, Meta Rationalism. Um, but you know that it's there. I highly recommend it. It's the thing that I searched for. That is the thing that I wanted, that I could then say, now that I have this, I can move on and recognize what else is happening, like the cosmogenesis and the creation of what we think of as reality and how it progresses. And then also once you have that, you know how you want to organize our world so that we can finally have a world where we can uh, become our best self. We can support others in doing the same. We will stop fighting each other. We'll stop killing each other. We'll allow
Mhm.
people to be who they are. We'll celebrate that. All of
And
those
create a
things.
world for thriving, not
Yes,
surviving.
absolutely. And you once you have that coat, clothes frame, it's almost like you can then do anything once you understand what it is,
Mhm.
what existence is. It all falls into place. You don't have to run out and memorize all the material within a week. This is an ongoing process. Just I'm going to put a little plug in for joining Morg's Discord channel at whatever way you do it, either through Patreon or through Morg's channel, becoming a member at the level that lets you in there, because we have a weekly study group and we're doing meta rationalism right now. And then we're going to move on to the next book, Cosmogenesis. And we do it as a group. Also, I'm going to put a plug in for work. I don't think we've actually mentioned this before, but I think it's really important that because our moderators, Mark and Elise, together share like it's every week pretty much, um, a something in Discord that's also in conjunction with the Nexus class, and that's the Mind Theater
Hmm.
where they get together, and I have yet to attend. I think I went in the first time, but I would like to get back to it because I'm always hearing about it, where they watch videos and have discussions and also do fun game things as well in the same Discord. So you'll have access to that if you join. So one more time, for all of that. Thank you, Angela. Yes, we love doing the Nexus. It's going to be tomorrow. It's on Sundays at 7 Eastern Time. And Mark is leading it tomorrow. Philip and Mark and I are the class leaders for that. And it's Wednesday night. Oh, Wednesdays at 6 and 9 Eastern is the Mind Theater. Oh, good to know. There's an actual schedule now for doing it. And it's the Discord is fabulous. And there's also just the regular channels in there to chat with people all the time. So that's a huge plug for that. Also, for anybody who isn't a member on our channel, we for a member at any level lets you come into our members only streams. And we will be back in 2 weeks where we're going to pick up from where we left off last time, which is continuation of Neogenian terms. We're basically putting a glossary together, and we decided not to do that tonight, that we would just jump in here with this, which has been lots of fun.
Yeah.
And
It seems
and
like you guys really enjoyed it too.
yeah, well, and I mean, we didn't even get to like tons of parts of our stories, but pretty much, I think, gave you an idea of where we were coming from. And
Isn't
oh,
it
right,
interesting, everybody, that despite coming from different backgrounds, Susan and I ended up at the same place?
yeah, and I couldn't have asked for a better friend and person to partner for doing this channel. I think it works really well. We're so similar, but I'm always interested in hearing where everybody else came from. And I think that one something we'll talk about on another time is, instead of the differences in backgrounds, what are the similarities in people
Hmm.
that lead them to come here? And I mean, certainly that search for knowledge is a biggie. So
Just
we,
before we go, we have a
yeah,
couple milestone membership chats here. Laura, who has been a member at the Wavelet level for 32 months, says, "Love being here. We love having you here as well, Laura, and
yes, we do.
everybody." And also Ryan, who's been a member at the Waveform level for 2 months, says, "I just finished editing my new video. I'll upload it tomorrow before Nexus so it doesn't interfere." Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to see you making videos, Ryan. I liked your
Yep,
first one. So I'm
I did
excited to
too.
see the next
Thank
one.
you. Yep, I'm catching up on videos. I just watched another one of Andy's that's exploring the Holos. I'm behind. He's been really doing amazing at getting those
Hmm.
videos out there. And
Oh, also really quick, Joanna put a Wavelet membership milestone through, who's been a member for 39 months, saying, "I'm always becoming the final I." So I didn't want to miss that one. Thank you, Joanna. And yeah,
um,
Andy, Exploring the Holos, has a really great channel.
yeah, Andy's been putting out a lot of videos working through the different concepts, which I
Hmm.
love seeing. And I just like seeing anybody who's putting out Neogenian content and talking about specifically your own experiences and how it
Yeah.
relates to the material.
And there's also Laura and Ren and Lee's been doing more content
Yes,
as well.
yes. In fact, Lee, I just came across on Facebook. I'm always apologizing because I'm terrifically behind usually. If it comes in front of me, then I get to see it. And I saw one of Lee's live streams and just asked him when they stream, and I'm going to try to get that into my head too. Know where to look for things like that. Um, so thank you, everybody. We will hopefully see you all tomorrow, or a lot of you in the next class that Mark is going to be leading. And and thank you. thank you all for coming. We will see you in 2 weeks, I think at the end of this month, and then with the member stream after that.
Hmm.
Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.